We used the money for something the whole family needed, a vacation, my mom said, setting down her wine glass like she'd just delivered good news. I stood frozen in the doorway of our kitchen, still holding the letter in my hand. The one from Stanford. The one that said I got in. The one they promised they had saved for. What do you mean? I asked, my voice barely escaping. Dad didn't even look up from his phone. You're young. You'll figure something else out. Cancun was amazing, by the way. Really opened our minds. The sunlight pouring through the window made everything feel too warm, too bright, like a lie dressed in daylight. They laughed and sipped wine, like they hadn't just shattered everything I worked for. In that moment, I didn't cry. I just sat down and quietly started planning. My name is Emily Carter. I'm 19 years old, and for as long as I can remember, I've had one dream: to go to Stanford. Not just because it's Stanford, but because I wanted more than what I saw around me. More than this town with one grocery store, the same Friday night pizza run, and dreams that stayed dreams. My parents always told me they had a college fund set aside. It's for you, Mom would say, brushing my hair behind my ear. We believe in you.
So, I believed in them.
I spent every night after school in my room, under the soft glow of my desk lamp, highlighting textbooks, writing essays, solving math problems until my vision blurred. I gave up parties. Skipped senior prom to take an extra prep class. Spent weekends volunteering at the animal shelter to round out my application. I thought I was working for a shared dream, but maybe it was just mine. My grandmother, Nana Ruth, was the only one who truly saw me. She used to say, "Your mind is your passport, sweetheart. Don't let anyone clip your wings." She passed away when I was 16, but I still keep her handkerchief in my desk drawer. It smells like lavender. And when the Stanford letter came, I cried holding it. It wasn't just acceptance, it was freedom. I ran to the kitchen that day, the letter trembling in my hands. But instead of cheers or tears, they barely looked up. We went to Cancun in March, Mom said. It was non-refundable. I stared at her like she'd spoken another language. You used my college money? I whispered. Dad finally looked at me then, just for a second. Relax. Not everything's about you, Emily. And in that moment, something broke. Not just the trust. Something deeper. This wasn't just a mistake. This was betrayal. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. That night, after they'd gone to bed, I opened the bottom drawer of my desk. The wood creaked, a sound I'd always found comforting, like it held secrets. Inside was a faded envelope. The paper was yellowed at the corners, but the ink on the front was still bold. To Emily, open when you're ready. It was from Nana Ruth. I opened it with trembling fingers, already knowing what it said. I'd read it a dozen times before, but this time it meant something different. Inside was a copy of the property deed. When she passed, she left the house to me. Quietly, legally, tucked in a trust that would become mine the moment I turned 18. She never trusted my parents. Said they were reckless with love and worse with money. I took the real deed, locked in the safe under my bed, and placed it in a manila folder. Next morning, while they laughed over breakfast, I slid the folder across the table. You might want to take a look at this before you book your next vacation, I said calmly. Their faces fell. Mom's coffee cup clinked against the saucer. Dad turned pale. Dad snatched the folder and pulled the papers out. His eyes scanned quickly at first, then slowed. His face twisted, like he couldn't believe what he was reading. What is this? He asked, voice sharp. The deed, I said evenly. The house was left to me. Nana put it in a trust. It became mine last year. I just never told you. You can't be serious, Mom gasped, clutching her robe tighter. This house, this is our home. I looked at her, eyes steady. And Stanford was supposed to be my future. Dad scoffed. You're doing this to punish us?
No.
I'm doing this because actions have consequences. Mom stepped forward, voice suddenly soft, almost shaking. Emily, we're your parents. We raised you. We gave you everything. No, Nana gave me everything, I replied. She saw who you really were. She knew I'd need protection. You're being dramatic, Dad snapped. You're not putting us out on the street. I haven't decided what to do yet, I said. But you no longer get to pretend like this is your house. Mom's eyes welled with tears. We're a family. Families make mistakes. Families don't gamble away someone else's future for a margarita on the beach, I shot back. The silence that followed was deafening, the kind that sucks the air out of the room. Just then, Ava, my older cousin, who had come to visit for the weekend, walked into the room holding a mug of tea. She had overheard everything. I didn't know they used your college fund, she said, looking from me to my parents. Emily, I am so sorry. Dad turned on her. This is none of your business. Ava held her ground. Actually, it is. You did the same thing to my mom once. Took her inheritance when she was too sick to fight. Nana told me everything. Mom's mouth dropped open. That's not true. But Ava had already turned toward me. I have a guest room in my apartment. If you ever need a place, you're welcome anytime, she said gently. I nodded, tears pricking at my eyes. This was the first time someone had stood up for me. My parents began arguing with each other, loudly. Accusations, deflections, trying to rewrite the story to make themselves look better. I didn't join them. I sat in silence, letting them fall apart under their own weight, letting the truth echo louder than any words I could say. I wasn't the powerless girl anymore. I was the one holding the keys. For days, the house was quiet, not peaceful, just silent in a way that made every creak in the floorboards echo louder. My parents avoided me like I was a ghost. They whispered behind closed doors and kept their voices low when I passed. But I wasn't afraid anymore. I spent those quiet days researching, calling the estate lawyer, confirming the paperwork, and checking my legal rights. Everything Nana Ruth left was solid. Ironclad. My name was on that deed and not a single clause gave them leverage. They could stay for now. But things were going to change. So I drafted a letter. I laid out a new arrangement. They could remain in the house if they paid rent, fair market value, deposited directly into an account that would fund my education. No more lies. No more false promises. No more empty wine glasses and you'll figure it out speeches. I left the letter on the kitchen table and went for a walk. When I returned, they were sitting at the dining room table, faces pale, expressions unreadable. This is cruel, Mom said. No, I said, taking a seat across from them. What you did was cruel. This is boundaries. Dad looked like he wanted to argue, but didn't. For the first time in my life, he didn't have a comeback. Instead, he stood and walked out of the room. Mom stayed. She looked at me, really looked. For the first time, I saw something that resembled shame. I didn't know you'd turn out so strong, she said quietly. I didn't either, I replied. That night, Ava and I sat on the back porch under the string lights Nana had once hung herself. I'm proud of you, she said, sipping her tea. You didn't just fight back. You set things right. I just wanted to be heard, I whispered. And now you are. Weeks passed. Rent began to arrive on time. My parents stayed distant but civil. I didn't forgive them, not yet, but I stopped carrying the hurt like armor. Instead, I channeled that energy into building something. I got a part-time job tutoring, applied for additional scholarships, and used the rent money to cover my deposit at a nearby community college. I would transfer to Stanford eventually, on my own terms, on my own timeline. One morning, I received a package in the mail. No return address. Inside was a box filled with Nana's old journals, and a note that simply read, "She wanted you to have these. Keep building, baby girl." It was Ava's handwriting. I cried for the first time in weeks, not because I was sad, but because finally I felt free. Later that week, I saw Mom standing in the kitchen, holding one of Nana's journals. She looked up as I entered.
She wrote about you, she said.
A lot. I didn't reply. I didn't realize how much she believed in you. She did, I said. Even when you didn't. She nodded. I'm trying. I know that doesn't fix things. But I'm trying. I didn't hug her. I didn't cry. But I didn't shut the door either. That, I realized, was grace. And I was choosing to live in it. 6 months later, the house didn't look the same. The peeling blue paint was replaced with warm cedar wood siding. The broken fence was rebuilt, now wrapped with ivy and fairy lights. And the garden, Nana's old garden, was blooming again with sunflowers, rosemary, and a stubborn little tomato patch I never thought I'd keep alive. I turned the garage into a mini reading studio and tutoring space. Word spread quickly. Students came by after school for help, and some even left with vegetables from the garden. I called it Ruth's porch, in honor of the woman who had planted more than seeds. My parents still lived upstairs, but things had shifted. They paid rent on time. They cleaned up after themselves. Mom started attending local therapy sessions. Dad took up woodworking and made me a new bookshelf one afternoon without being asked. He didn't say much when he dropped it off, but he stood in the doorway longer than usual. Ava visited more often too. She helped me repaint Nana's old room and suggested turning it into a tiny writing corner. For when you're ready to write your story, she said with a smile. I didn't tell her. I had already started. One afternoon, a little girl came to the porch with her backpack dragging behind her. Her name was Mia. She was 8, frustrated with fractions, and ready to give up. I sat her down, opened one of Nana's old journals, and read her a quote Nana once wrote. Anything worth building starts from the inside. That includes you. Mia looked up at me and nodded like it was the first time anyone had told her she could do hard things. That's when I realized this house was never just a house. It was a legacy, a place to grow into, a place to rise from. A few days later, I walked past Mom's room. The door was open, the sunlight pouring in, and I heard her humming. She had a photo of Nana on her nightstand now, next to a journal of her own. Healing, I realized, didn't have to be loud. Sometimes it came quietly, like lavender on a breeze, like a handkerchief in an old drawer. One evening, I sat on the porch, sipping tea, wrapped in Nana's favorite blanket. The sky was peach and purple, the way it gets before a summer storm. The air smelled of basil and rain. I remembered something Nana used to say. Don't just reclaim what they stole. Build something so beautiful they'll wish they had treated you better. I smiled. Because I had.